regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.
Hey, thanks for stopping by and watching. Those of you that do stop by and watch, it is episode 5 of Saturday SitRep here for Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. I'm going to try not to do so long on this one tonight or today because I do have a video coming out in a little while. Today is April 30th, Saturday, April 30th. Man, this year is already flying by. And it is 2022, and it's the 1-year anniversary of when I was placed out on administrative leave for being a dissident in the Olmsted County Sheriff's Office. So be looking for that video later today. I'll also making an announcement in that video about a new platform that I put up and I'm taking part in, because so many people have asked me, hey, what can we do to help, man? What can we do to show you some support and some encouragement? And you'll see in that video what I'm talking about. In the meantime, don't forget we've got 22-0 challenge going on right now. Any merchandise that you buy from me between now and we're gonna push it out till end of the day tomorrow on Sunday. Any merchandise that you buy, coffee, mugs, tumblers, lowball glasses, these really nice stainless steel interior shot glasses with this beautiful etching on it. Anything that you buy between now and then is going to go to the proceeds that I'm going to be donating to the 22-0 organization to help end veteran suicide, because the tyrants in the VA and the tyrants in the federal government aren't doing a darn thing for the vets, ultimately. In fact, they're closing VA clinics and cutting back on services for vets all the time. Well, our men and women in the military are getting out, and they're suffering. And Judson says, hello. And I say, hello back, Judson. I'm doing well for my anniversary of the 1-year mark. So a little better than I thought I'd be doing, but not real thrilled today. But we're going to cover some news. So here in the great state of Marxisota, Comrade Kim Norton of the Rochester municipal area, the international city of Rochester, she likes to tell everybody, Comrade Kim Norton and the city council are implementing ID cards for the city, and they're going to be issued at the library. And Representative Dwayne Quam has stepped up and said, hey, look, for the sake of accountability reasons, we're going to be writing a bill. And he's taken some heat for that. People are basically accusing him of, I don't know. The comments that I've been getting is, oh, he's doing this because he hates minorities. Oh, he's doing this. No, he's doing it because there's corruption going on all over in the state of Minnesota. We've had case after case after case of people abusing the COOF benefits that were going out. So what makes anybody think that's not going to be the case now when it comes to something like this, that they're not going to use some sort of ID to take advantage of a system? I mean, heaven forbid. Hey, Cheryl, thanks for stopping in. I appreciate you watching. So Representative Dwayne Quam has stepped up along with somebody else and said, hey, look, we're going to we're going to do something to end this. And I think it's a great idea. He said the bill could end up as an amendment on existing House or Senate legislation, is in response to the city's discussion of implementing a municipal ID. The Rochester City Council reviewed a proposal last week which would have Rochester Public Library staff make free identification cards as a way to address concerns of people who might not have state driver licenses or IDs due to the lack of need or ability to afford one. So if it's a lack of need, why do they need a city one? And why does it need to be free? That's what I don't understand. Why does everything have to be free? And the fact that it's going to be issued by a city now makes it, for lack of better terminology, makes it a valid ID for many things within the city limits. So yeah, it could it could become an easily abused thing. They're going to be voting on this, or they're expected to vote on this on the 2nd. And here's one of the things that the Rochester Public Library Circulation Services manager said the cards would help address challenges faced by immigrants, especially those who were forced to leave their home countries without needed identification. He also said they could be used to promote city pride, offer an identification option for low-income residents who cannot drive, and provide other benefits for city residents. Quam focused on one stated benefit in explaining why he wanted to ensure protection against misuse was in place. In presenting the proposal to City Council, Steers pointed to two of his friends, Todd and Ronald, who were commonly known as Theo and Vance. They would love to have an ID that they could hand people and say, hey, this is who I really am. He said of the ability to use a nickname on the identification card. Quam said he sees flexibility as opening a door to fraud. If people are allowed to choose between using a state or municipal ID when applying for state or federal benefits, it could cause the possibility of you having IDs with several different names on it, he said, adding his bill seeks to set limits. That's it. Now he's taking heat for it, and it's absolutely stupid. Why does he need to take heat for something like that? Right? Why? He just wants precautions in place because, as we've learned, heaven forbid, somebody should acknowledge that corruption happens. Corruption happens. It just happens. And if we're gonna have the state do things, and the city is part of the state, and when I say state, I'm talking about this amorphous beast that has taken on a life of its own. If the city is going to step in and function in a way to provide IDs for people, one, like there's no such thing as free. Two, it can be abused. And why? No, if it's going to be an ID, it has to have your real name on it. I don't care if that means dead naming you. Anyway, so the city's all for it, but Quam wants to have some sort of standard in place to help prevent fraud, and everybody's immediately goes, oh, if you're trying to help prevent fraud, you must be a racist. You must be a bigot. Who's a bigot in this situation, by the way? Just trying to just pointing that out. So here's another very interesting development. Everybody knows we've got this big push for electric cars coming on, and everybody's, oh, we've got to do something about the environment. We need more electric cars, and gosh, we should be converting everything to electric. No one's talking about the damage that this could end up doing to the environment. Let's not even talk about the economy, by the way. Nobody's talking about the damage ultimately that this can do, because electric cars have to get their electricity from somewhere, right, ladies and gentlemen? And those batteries are dangerous as all get out. And it requires a massive amount of electricity to charge these batteries. And how are we going to generate that? Because they don't want us to burn coal. They don't want us to use nuclear. All they want us to do is use wind power and solar. And I don't know if anybody's paid any attention, but here in southeast Minnesota, we are one giant wind farm. You can't go anywhere anymore without seeing these freaking ugly turbines, which, by the way, we have a graveyard, and I'm going to be shooting some video of that and presenting that in one of the upcoming episodes of Saturday SitRep. We have a wind turbine graveyard in a little tiny town of Grand Meadow where the parts sit because they can't be recycled. So they sit until they have enough, and then they go and bury them somewhere. So, I mean, it's just blah. So what's the response to this? Well, we're going to have the state sue the state right now. Correct, Cheryl. In its current form, our power grid is nowhere near ready for this. Absolutely. We've got the state suing the state. Now, remember, I'm using the term state to describe the amorphous monster that is centralized government. 16 states sue the Postal Service over plan to buy gas-powered vehicles. Yep. 16 states on Thursday sued the U.S. Postal Service over its plan to replace its aging delivery fleet with thousands of gas-powered delivery vehicles over the next decade. The lawsuits argue that the agency's environmental analysis to justify spending up to $11.3 billion on gas trucks, which only get 8.6 miles per gallon, was deeply flawed. Postal Service spokesperson Kim Frum said the agency conducted a robust and thorough review and fully complied with all our obligations under the National Environmental Policy Act. Well, first of all, I don't believe that because post office gets a break on everything. So the 16 states sued over its plan to replace its aging delivery fleet, right? The lawsuits argue that the agency's environmental analysis to justify spending was flawed, right? So we've already talked about that. Why? Well, these people want to force us into these unreliable vehicles. So now you're gonna make the post office spend exponentially more money to go to electric vehicles, which take far more money when it comes to upkeep, takes far more money to charge. The post office already charges you an arm and a leg for pretty much everything these days. It's technically not even a wing of the United States government anymore. It's so convoluted to be almost impossible to understand. It's a gargantuan cesspool of a beast the way it is. And now they're basically suing, not basically, they are suing to force them to do what they want, which is going to cost us more money. No matter which way this happens, we're going to be biting the bullet on this one. We're the ones that are going to suffer. That's it. That's who's going to suffer. All these states that are suing are literally putting the burden back on their own people. It's ridiculous. And there again, and Judson, your comment's hilarious, by the way. I've seen a meme of that if you haven't seen it. There's just absolutely no way around this. This is going to be terribly inefficient for us until they come up with a way for electric vehicles to not have to be charged so dang often, and for the batteries to be either recyclable or a better storage system. That's all there is to it. It's just dangerous as all get out to the economy and to the taxpayer. This is going to end up hurting them in the long run. Some of you might remember that a couple of weeks ago I talked about the Nystrom family. Erin Nystrom owns Potbelly Sandwiches in Rochester. They're wealthy and they own Atlas Insurance Company. Well, Erin started up a petition to get a crime forum shut down because she said it was racist. And so the Rochester Golf and Country Club shut the forum down with no notice. They got sued by the Center for the American Experiment, which is a conservative think tank. I don't agree with everything that the Center for the American Experiment says. Their representatives here in Minnesota tend to be a little bit more on the rhino side, and you got to get along to go along type. So I really don't get it. But the accusation is that they're racist and bigoted because they take traditional values, and so therefore they shouldn't be allowed a forum to speak. Worse still is they have continued to demand that local law enforcement in the Rochester area not be allowed to speak at these things. And so they got this rescheduled. They found a place that was willing to host it, and here it is. Crime crisis event in Rochester happening today, and this was on the 26th after controversial cancellation.
As a community bank, NBT Bank is proud to provide you with modern banking solutions to help you reach your financial goals. Whether you prefer to bank in person or online,
so much for doing these things live.
Provide you a personal experience every time. You can bank with NBT anywhere, from the country to the city, and anywhere.
I'm not even getting paid for this.
Proudly serving our communities in northern Iowa and southern Minnesota. Where will you go with NBT?
Nowhere, because you're not sponsoring me.
Happening today, we've been following this for weeks now. The Center for the American Experience Crime Crisis event was scheduled to happen last month, the Rochester Golf and Country Club. The country club then made a controversial last-minute decision to cancel it. Today, the rescheduled event is happening at the Rochester Event Center. KIX News 3's Alex Dieter joins us live with how the organization's chairman is feeling about that cancellation. Alex, good morning.
Annalise, good morning. Chairman Fran Bradley told me that the country club's cancellation came as a surprise to both him and all of the other attendees. And if you take a look right here, in March, about 50 people were waiting at the door to go in when they heard of the cancellation. Look at those dangerous people. The organization's crime crisis event will focus on the discussion of building community trust and safe neighborhoods, current crimes, and how to reduce crime. The country club made its decision to cancel after some people expressed concerns over the topics of discussion. Bradley says his organization doesn't view these topics as controversial and is concerned with the precedent this incident may set.
I would defend.
Look, I know Fran Bradley. He probably doesn't remember me from Adam, but I know Fran. And here's the issue. The Center for the American Experiment is about as milquetoast as you can get. They are not radicals. They're not racists. They're not bigots. Do they oppose the inculcation of the LGBTQ agenda into the public school system? Absolutely. They absolutely do oppose that. And I am sorry for the noise in the background. I don't understand why. Anyway, they just absolutely 100% are just about as center as you can be when it comes to views and positions. And it's just absolutely ridiculous that anybody could look at them and make these statements about them being racist. But see, the problem is it doesn't end there, ladies and gentlemen. It gets worse, right? So they got them shut down in one place, but they couldn't get them shut down totally. So they upped their ante and really went to town on with the hate. And a young lady posted, well, if I can find it now. A young lady posted this. This young lady, Jennifer Winter, in, I don't know if she's a young lady or not. I just coin with what I see on the screen. Olmsted County Sheriff Kevin Torgerson and Police Chief Jim Franklin will be on the discussion panel. Now, y'all know how I feel about Kevin Torgerson. He is a little tyrant in the making, but I don't really care about whether or not he's speaking here. In fact, I actually fully defend his right to speak there. But listen to what she goes. Our local law enforcement leadership is speaking at a partisan event run by a right-wing racist and anti-LGBTQ organization. It's an assertion without any proof. Like they assert that this is true, but they're not doing anything about it. Then she names, then our mayor, Kim Norton, serving as mayor in Rochester, Minnesota, runs around clutching her pearls when minority folks dare to say that there's a culture of systematic racism and bigotry in Rochester's law enforcement, just like there is everywhere else in the country. Last time I checked, the mayor manages the police chief. Why is she letting him participate in this farce? Y'all, I really can't with this city's so-called progressive mayor. Look, Kim Norton is a progressive. She's never clutched pearls. She on the night of May 29th of 2020, during the George Floyd riots, when they were trying to cause riots in Rochester, Kim Norton stood on the front steps of the law enforcement center and said, and I can't quote exactly, said, "It's time that minorities in Rochester and Olmsted County in Southeast Minnesota finally felt safe in the hands of law enforcement again." The reason that I know this to be true is because I witnessed it, and two, I got chastised for saying something about it in a video the next day, which started the entire process of the Olmsted County Sheriff's Office taking exception to my social media content. So yeah, the accusations just continue, but it gets better. Kim responds to this gal. Because this group could share false information and foment fear in our community without true local facts, I don't even know what a true local fact is. Either it's true and factual, or it's not true, and therefore it's not factual. So Kim, that was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen you type. And I've seen you type a lot of dumb things. Our law enforcement will come speak to any group about our local situation. Feel free to invite them. And so Mao Landis says this sort of deflection we have come to expect. The expectation that minorities in your community fight back with their own event, planning, rental, and resources. This invitation requires that they must dedicate their resources to counter an event built to oppress them. Look, this, ladies and gentlemen, is why the left is so dangerous. They don't understand logic. They literally do not know how to put logical constructs called sentences together to address a situation. There's nothing but assertions that this is a racist event. It's a bigoted event. So if you oppose an agenda, you are de facto a bigot, right? They're not proving any bigotry. They don't have to, they're not offering any evidence of the bigotry. And then when Kim, to her credit, says, hey, invite them, they'll come speak. Oh, we shouldn't have to do that. Well, wait a minute. What? So we should cater to you? We should cater to you if you feel offended. Real? Okay. You feel offended, so we're going to cater to you. Well, that's just stupid. But that's the left. The left is literally devoid of reason and intellect. They literally operate solely off of emotion, and you should have an emotion in how you respond. You should combine your empathy, your sympathy with your intellect and your reasoning and your logic. But they don't know how to do that. And listen, the appropriate response would be to move to keep hate groups from holding events in our city's venues. Whoa. So wait a minute. So the right are fascists, right? Because allegedly the right want to shut down anybody that disagrees with them. But this person just said the appropriate response would be to move to keep hate groups from holding events in our city's venues. Now, the Rochester Event Center is not owned by the city, is my understanding. I believe it is owned privately. If I'm wrong, somebody please correct me. But let's say it is owned by the city. Does the city have the right to forbid a hate group from meeting there? Well, constitutionally, no. We saw that this with the KKK in, I think it was Skokie. The city was forced to allow them to assemble on city property, because whether or not their opinion is accepted as the norm, they have a freedom of speech that is defended and protected by the Constitution of the United States under the Bill of Rights. What Mao Landis is doing here is saying, like, no hate group should be allowed to meet in any venues in the city. That's what the implication is right here. Not just city property, but in any venue. Now, this raises the whole question of who gets to define what a hate group is. I think Antifa and Black Lives Matter are hate groups. Therefore, I don't want them to be able to use any venues. They'd lose their ever-loving minds if I truly propose that. They couldn't handle that. But this Jennifer continues, talking to anyone sounds nice on paper, but at the end of the day, this is lending legitimacy to a group that spreads hate and misinformation about minority communities. That's not true. They don't. They literally don't. They do not spread hate. They don't. You cannot show me one thing that the Center for the American Experiment has ever done that has advocated for hatred and misinformation about minority communities. You can't do it. Not because I just reject it if you do show it, but there's nothing there. But John down here, he really brings it home. Thanks for including me. The Center for the American Experiment should send a delegation to Ukraine so that they could see what it's like to be bombed for no good reason. What? I don't even know what that means. I don't understand. I'm going to have a stroke, I think, because what? Yeah, thank you, Cheryl. Skokie versus Nazi Party. Right. Exactly. Yes, Judson, we live in a post-truth world, dude. Just support the current thing, right? Yeah, so everybody fly your flag, right? Let's everybody get out there and fly your Ukrainian flag, even though you have no idea what's going on in the Ukraine and why it's happening. But anyway, so Vox, the very center, fair-minded organization, Vox, is reporting on a story right now about what could be a big win for the religious right. The religious right had a great day in the Supreme Court. Heaven forbid. The justices take a big bite out of the First Amendment's Establishment Clause, or they might take a simply enormous bite. The justices may take a big bite out of the First Amendment's Establishment Clause, or they might take a simply enormous bite of it. The best case scenario for supporters of church-state separation after the Supreme Court's oral arguments in Kennedy v. Bremerton School District on Monday is that the justices leave in place a rule which prohibits public schools from actively coercing students into participating in a religious exercise that they find objectionable. The worst case, although probably not a particularly likely one, is that the justices give school officials free rein to pressure students into embracing these officials' religious beliefs. Basically, this comes down to a post-game prayer session for players that was led by a coach, and on and on and on. And their fear is that these poor students were forced, which they weren't. They weren't. These students weren't forced. But I want to point out something here, and I'm not going to harp on this one for too darn long. If I were a parent, I wouldn't want my children exposed to the LGBTQ plus agenda in the schools. I wouldn't want them exposed to the CRT agenda in schools. I don't want that. I want my kids, if they're going to, which, by the way, my kids are out of school now, and they never did go to a government-operated school. But if you want your kids to not be damaged by the system, don't send them to the government schools, because they're going to reject everything that you believe in your home and teach your kids the opposite of it. If you happen to be a conservative or a constitutionally minded Christian conservative, they're going to reject that. But I don't get a say in that. So a coach / teacher praying with his team after a game without coercing them, that somehow is dangerous. And Vox is upset about that. But all these other things happening that don't have anything to do with reading, writing, and arithmetic, and the rewriting of history, all that stuff is fine. That's perfectly acceptable. That's not coercive or anything. This is a problem with the way we operate. No logic. And like Judson said, just support the current thing. So I was going to cover a little bit about the student loan stuff, but it's coming. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys need to be prepared. Our economy is going to take a big hit because Biden is signaling that he is going to do something with student loan forgiveness. It is coming. And those of you that did pay off your student loans, you aren't going to get anything. Those of you that still have student loans are going to get something, but you're going to have to meet certain criteria, right? You're going to have to be the person who meets a certain criteria. The problem is most of the people running up the biggest amount of student loans are people who can afford to pay it back because they're coming from wealthier families. Now, there's another push on the COOF. They're pushing this really hard, right? They're talking about new strains of Omicron. They're talking about more spread. Look, it's midterm elections, ladies and gentlemen. We have to be prepared. They're going to shift focus again because they're kind of losing us on the Ukraine, so they're going to have to come up with something. So here in the state of Minnesota, 2 days ago, Minneapolis and St. Paul, the Met Council area, have announced that the cases are on the rise. They're recommending that everybody start masking up again, jabbed or unjabbed. Guess what? Not to be outdone, third largest metro area in the state of Minnesota, the city of Rochester, has now said, "Oh, our cases are on the rise as well." Now, you want to know what the number is? You guys ready for this? 10 out of every 100,000 people. 10 out of every 100,000 people have reported to the hospital that they have an infection of the COOF. What's the percentage on that? Anybody have a guess? Because it's nothing. It's negligible. That's it. It's negligible. But that's not good enough, right? Dr. Fauci says Wednesday, April 27th, Dr. Anthony Fauci warns the COOF pandemic is not over and another dangerous variant is possible. Isn't that amazing? I was been warning people that this was coming. I've been warning people that this was going to happen. And most of you that watch me know you've been telling people too, but it's always something. Well, guess what we see here? Guess what? The Times of Israel. Second new Omicron subvariant detected among travelers, says the ministry. First two cases of BA.5 reported in Israel. Ministry also announces another infection from BA.4 subvariant, both of which are spreading in South Africa. What do you think they're doing? What could possibly be the purpose of this? Well, I'm going to show you this Olmsted County one. Here's Olmsted County's. Olmsted County moves back into high COVID-19 community level. Olmsted County is now considered to have a high COVID-19 community level under parameters set by the CDC. According to Olmsted County and Olmsted County Public Health Services, new COVID-related hospital admissions have increased in Olmsted County to 10.3 per 100,000 residents over the past 7 days. While we are concerned about the increase of COOF in Olmsted County, we know we have the tools to reduce the impact of COOF in our community. Olmsted County Public Health Services Director Denise Daniels said, Olmsted County residents can wear a mask in public, can get the COOF jab and stay up to date with boosters, can get tested if they have COOF symptoms, can follow the CDC's quarantine and isolation guidance when ill. Our hospitals also have the availability to administer antivirals. Stay away from that stuff, by the way. But do you see this hype? 10.3 out of 100,000 is enough to scare the living crap out of people. But why? Because. Right, see, Justin? First he said we were out of the pandemic phase. Then he said we were not. 24 hours matters to the current things. Exactly. So, Denmark just banned. So, Denmark is like a socialist utopia, by the way. Denmark becomes the first country to halt its COOF vaccination program. So they're halting theirs, and there's they're saying their compliance with the vaccines, with the jabs, is high. So they're not necessarily thinking that it's something that needs to be carried through. Spring has arrived. Vaccine coverage in Danish population is high, and the epidemic has reversed. See that? Now, this was released on, where's my date? April 28th. So this was a day after Fauci's comments. So Denmark is halting its vaccination program, right? Well, get this. Moderna asked FDA to authorize COOF jab for kids under 6 years old on the 28th, so 2 days ago. So we've got countries that are stopping their jab programs. We've got other countries hyping the fear of the Omicron variant. We have Fauci come out and say that the pandemic is over, but now he's saying that we're nowhere near safe. And now you got Moderna asking to authorize the COOF vaccine for kids under 6 years old. Ladies and gentlemen, we're being played. We're being played. And so many of you are just like sitting back going, oh, I'm perfectly fine. I'm perfectly fine. You guys keep manipulating us. We'll keep doing, we'll keep responding in fear. Oh, hey, what are you making for dinner? Yeah, boy, I'm hungry. I haven't ate all day. Stomach wasn't feeling it. But anyway, we're just sitting here. Feed us your lines over and over and over and over again. Just keep telling us more and more and more things that we need to be afraid of. Oh my gosh, seriously. I'm so hungry. I gotta go shave this. I'm gonna shave. If you guys could see how wriggly my head's looking on top too. I'm gonna shave before I eat dinner tonight. But it's over and over and over again. It's just one thing after another. We can't get a straight story on any of this stuff, and nobody's paying any attention closely to see the inconsistencies here. No, my friends that watch the program, I know you guys are watching. I know you guys are seeing these things. I get it and I appreciate it. But for the love of Pete, could somebody please get somebody who's not just a Republican, because the Republicans are just about as bad as this as the Democrats are. Can we get some consistency, please? Just a little. That's all I'm asking for. Just a little consistency. Because I'm tired of having to explain this to the public. They don't seem to want to have to think for themselves. And what bothers me about it is the fact that most of the people who would agree that we're being played are not willing to have the conversations much anymore. It's like we've gotten tired and we're just going back to life as normal. And nothing's normal about this. We've been under pandemic measures for over 2 years now. I was talking to somebody a couple of months ago. He's a content producer and kind of a talent, our story scout and writer for a very, very big platform that might have something to do with a guy named Steve who is really loud. And he was talking about stories of people who cannot move on after the COOF pandemic. Not because they got sick, but because of the damage that was done to them by pandemic restrictions. And we were talking about my friend Lisa Hansen and how her life is forever negatively impacted by government overreach and tyranny. It's just a fact. Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people in the United States are never going to go back to normal. Ever. We're never going back to normal. I'm never going to go back to normal before all of this, because some of you will recognize this as I'm flashing it around. I'm never going to get that job that I had back. And as you guys will hear if you watch my video tonight talking about the 1-year anniversary of being placed on administrative leave and another part of the Olmsted County entity that was complicit in it, I can never go back. Even though I'm kind of glad that I'm moving on, I can never go back. Every day's a fight for me now. Every day's a fight for people like Lisa Hansen. Every day's a fight for my friend Lisa Monet-Zarza, who lost not one but 2 businesses and was told she'll never be allowed to own another one, ultimately in the state of Minnesota again. And my friend Larvita, who's still fighting, still going to court And I can name more and more and more and more and more people. Life's never going back to the way it was for us. Ever. There's never going to be another new normal or another normal for us. Many of us are suffering. And so pay attention to the news. Do your own Saturday sit reps with people if you have to. Share my stuff. Put it out there. Like, comment, and share. That's what everybody says on these things, right? Like, comment, and share. Drive me up in the algorithm. Because nobody else is talking about these things. Nobody else is pointing these things out. As Judson said earlier, just support whatever the current thing is. Right. I'm never going to forget those who wanted me dead because I wouldn't stab. Right? Some of you remember, well, don't rub it in, Cynthia, thanks. Some of you will remember the people, Scott and Ann Quiner, that I covered a couple of months ago. Scott's husband was not forcibly, but got sick with the coof, and he ended up hospitalized at the end of October, into November, and the hospital was doing their protocols, and Ann was fighting them on it, and she fought and fought and fought, was finally able to get him moved, but the damage was too much, and he succumbed to the treatment, and he died in a Texas hospital. Life ever going to go back to normal for her? And people wished ill on her and her husband for that. And Ann's going to be coming on one of my Monday night TC and Friends Monday Night Musings. She's going to be coming on, and we're going to be having a conversation about her life since that ordeal and since the passing of her husband. Share this out if you would, ladies and gentlemen, my friends. I need the views, frankly. Every view I get, even if it's 2 minutes or 30 seconds, drives me up in the algorithm, and it helps me earn a little bit of income from YouTube. So whenever I can stick it to the system, I will. Once again, until tomorrow, if you want to buy coffee or merchandise, I'm giving a portion of the proceeds to 22-0. And that's being matched by two different organizations, two groups, one from Right American Media and Kim and his wife from Second Generation Creations. They make the merch, and not the coffee. They make the merchandise that goes with the coffee. So tune in tonight, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, to watch my video commemorating my 1-year anniversary of administrative leave, and more documentation that I had of a conversation that I had with the HR department trying to figure a way out, to fix what was going on, because I didn't want to lose my career. I was doing everything I could. So I have documentation from that, and we'll be talking a little bit about that email exchange and how it died a very sudden death. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I'm thankful for every single one of you, and be looking for a new announcement about my new platform that I'll be on to help kind of pique interest for people who have been asking, what can we do to help? You guys will be able to catch that. So, like always, my friends, until next time, sic semper tyrannis. Oh, that's not, I screwed that up.
We are go for liftoff in T-30. Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. Secondary guidance systems engaged. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.